The wind cried like an ancient hymn across the cliffs as Elias knelt before the restless sea. His trembling hands folded, his eyes closed tight, whispering a prayer not for fortune, but for peace. Every wave that struck the rocks below seemed to echo his turmoil. "Please, just still my heart," he murmured. Yet peace never came easily to those who begged for control. Behind him, the lantern light flickered from his small boat, the Mara, named after his wife. Tomorrow, his son Luca would sail alone for the first time. Pride and fear wrestled inside him. Have you ever prayed for peace, only to find the storm growing louder? Have you ever wondered if the calm you seek lives inside the very chaos you flee from? The sky darkened, thunder murmuring like a warning. A single raindrop slid from Elias's weathered cheek, uncertain if it came from heaven or his heart. Morning arrives dressed in silence. The storm has passed, leaving the sea bruised and still. Elias stands by the dock, staring at Luca's empty boat preparing to sail. His heart races beneath calm eyes. Luca loads his nets, stubbornly ignoring the trembling in his father's voice. Elias wants to say, "Don't go," but pride locks his tongue. Sometimes love is a chain of unspoken words, and silence becomes its own kind of storm. By noon, the winds shift again. Mira watches from the window as clouds return, heavy and impatient. Elias kneels in the chapel, whispering another prayer, his voice hoarse from pleading. Father Adrian listens quietly nearby. "Do you believe God hears you?" the old priest asks. Elias hesitates. "I think he hears. I just don't think he answers." The silence that follows feels heavier than thunder. Afternoon breaks into chaos. Wind lashes the coast as waves rise higher than they should. Fishermen rush to pull their boats ashore, but one vessel is missing. The Mara. Elias runs to the cliffside, every heartbeat a hammer against his ribs. The sky is gray, the sea roaring in defiance. In the distance, a tiny silhouette of a boat fights the waves. "Luca," he cries, but the wind swallows his voice whole. Night falls without mercy. The sea swallows the horizon whole. Villagers gather at the shore, lanterns trembling in their hands. Mira clings to Elias's arm, eyes wide and hollow. Somewhere beyond the waves, their son's name dissolves into the storm. Elias falls to his knees, the sound of thunder drowned by the breaking of a man's heart. He whispers through the rain, "I prayed for peace." Then silence, deeper than grief. A single lantern slips from Mara's grasp and drifts into the Black Sea. The morning after the storm smelled of salt and sorrow. The sea was calm again, cruelly calm, like it had forgotten what it had done. Elias sat alone on the rocks, his body still, his soul empty. People spoke his name softly, as though afraid it might break him. He didn't cry. He couldn't. Sometimes pain goes so deep it becomes silent. Mira's hand rested on his shoulder, but he didn't feel. "I'll come back," she whispered, though even her voice trembled with disbelief. And somewhere behind his blank stare, Elias prayed again. Not for peace this time, but for meaning. 3 days passed, and still no sign of Luca. The villagers lit candles in the chapel, murmuring prayers that felt more like apologies. Elias stayed behind, repairing nets that no longer needed mending. His hands moved, but his eyes were lost. Mira tried to speak, to remind him of life beyond loss, but his silence built walls between them. Father Adrian visited one evening, setting down a loaf of bread. "You blame God," he said softly. Elias looked up, voice cracked. "No," he whispered. "I blame myself." That night, rain returned, gentle this time, like the sky was mourning too. Mira knelt beside the bed, whispering a prayer for strength. Elias sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. "He's gone," he said quietly, not to her, but to the storm outside. Mira froze, tears spilling silently. Then we must live for him, she answered. But Elias shook his head. I don't know how. His reflection in the window blurred, one tear sliding down his cheek. His first since the sea took his son. Weeks fade into silence. The sea keeps giving fish as if mocking him with its calm. Elias avoids the chapel now. His faith has cracked, its pieces scattered across his guilt. One evening he wanders the cliffs again, where it all began. The same place, the same wind, but he feels like a ghost of himself. What's left to surrender when you've already lost everything? He murmurs to the empty sky. Somewhere far below, the waves answer with nothing but their eternal rhythm. That night, Mira finds Elias packing a small bag. Where will you go? She asks, her voice trembling. To find peace, he says without looking up. Or to find the God who took it from me. She takes a step closer, and if you don't find either, he finally meets her eyes. Empty, tired, yet somehow determined. Then I'll keep walking until I do. As he leaves the cottage, the wind blows through the door like a sigh. Mira watches him disappear into the darkness, knowing some journeys begin only after everything is lost. Days turn into miles. Elias walks without destination, his feet tracing forgotten roads through misty hills. The silence of the mountains presses on him like a weight. No cries, no prayers. Only the soft breathing of the earth. He sleeps beneath trees, drinks from rivers, and listens to the world speak a language without words. At first, he resents the quiet. Then, slowly, it begins to speak back. Every step feels like a question. Who are you when no one calls your name anymore? He reaches a valley where an abandoned chapel stands, its bell long silent. Inside, dust swirls through broken beams of light. Elias sits on the cracked floor, his prayer beads resting beside him. For the first time, he doesn't pray. He just breathes. In that breath, something softens, a space between grief and acceptance. Sometimes, peace doesn't come as a miracle. It comes as the sound of your own breathing when you finally stop fighting what is. He wakes to the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Father Adrian stands at the doorway, a walking stick in hand. His eyes carry both warmth and sorrow. I thought I'd lost you to the sea, he says gently. Elias smiles faintly. You did. They share silence that says more than words ever could. The old priest sits beside him, looking out toward the valley. God isn't in the answers, he murmurs. He's in the waiting. For the first time in months, Elias lets the silence stay. In the evenings, Elias helps Father Adrian gather firewood. They speak little. Sometimes silence can heal better than comfort. As the fire burns, Adrian tells stories, not of saints or miracles, but of ordinary men who found peace in surrender. Elias listens, staring at the flames. How do you let go? He asks. When letting go feels like betrayal. Adrian smiles faintly. You don't let go of love, my son. You let go of the fight against what love cannot save. Before dawn, Elias wakes to find Father Adrian asleep beside the dying fire. He looks at the old man and feels something stir. Gratitude, quietude, quiet and deep. Packing his bag, he stands at the chapel door one last time. The world outside glows with soft gold. He doesn't know where he's going, but for the first time, that doesn't frighten him. As he walks away, he whispers, "Thank you," for the silence. The wind carries it, gentle and sure, like a prayer answered without words. Elias descends into a dense forest, sunlight struggling to reach the mossy floor. The path is quiet, yet alive. Leaves whisper, streams gurgle. Suddenly, a figure emerges from the shadows. Theo stands tall and calm, sunburned skin glinting faintly, his light eyes piercing yet gentle. You carry more grief than you should, he says without accusation. Elias studies him, skeptical, wary. "And you know this how?" Theo smiles faintly. "Because grief is a weight no one hides entirely." Elias realizes, with a jolt, that this stranger might see what he cannot admit to himself. They walk together along the winding trail, silence stretching comfortably between them. Theo's voice breaks it. "You pray for peace, yet cling to the past. Peace is not a gift the world gives. It's the courage to face what cannot be changed." Elias clenches his hands on the strap of his bag. "And if I can't?" Theo stops, turns to him, eyes steady. "Then you walk anyway. That is surrender, not giving up. But moving forward when the storm is still raging inside." Elias doesn't answer, yet something shifts. A seed of understanding planted in grief-soaked soil. That night, they camp beside a quiet river. Theo lights a small fire. Sparks rise into the dark sky. "You still look for answers outside," he says, "but the truth is inside. Every wave that took from you, every prayer unanswered, is teaching you the art of surrender." Elias stares into the fire, swallowing hard. "I don't know if I can ever forgive myself." Theo's voice is firm, yet gentle. "Forgiveness isn't about letting go of pain. It's about letting the pain teach you." Elias' chest tightens, yet a strange calm settles, like first breath after a storm. The next morning, Elias rises before the sun. Theo stands silently, watching the mist lift from the river. "You are afraid," Theo says softly, "because surrender feels like losing everything." Elias nods, knowing it's true. "But it isn't about losing," Theo continues. "It's about opening your hands to what you cannot hold. That is where peace lives." The words settle over him like warm rain. Elias closes his eyes, imagining the stormy sea behind him, and breathes in a courage he hasn't felt in months. They continue walking until they reach a cliff overlooking a valley below. Elias stares at the depth beneath, the wind whipping around him. Theo places a hand lightly on his shoulder. "You prayed for peace, but the sea answered in loss. Life does not give peace. It gives lessons. And the lesson is surrender. Are you ready?" Elias looks down, his breath steadying, eyes softening. "I think I am," he whispers. The wind carries the words, and for the first time in months, Elias feels the stirring of calm within the chaos. Elias returns to a small village nestled in a quiet valley. He notices life flowing around him. Children running through fields, farmers tending their crops, laughter weaving through the air like a soft melody. For the first time in months, he doesn't feel the weight of loss pressing him to the ground. Instead, he feels a spark, a curiosity, fragile yet persistent. Walking along the path, he notices a young boy struggling to carry a heavy basket of apples. Without thinking, Elias steps forward, lifting some of the weight. A smile, brief and genuine, passes between them. In small acts, he discovers that healing is not a distant goal. It is lived in the present. Later, Elias meets an elderly woman struggling to repair her roof before an approaching storm. Without hesitation, he climbs the ladder and steadies the tiles with careful hands. Rain begins to fall softly, yet he feels no fear, only purpose. Mra's words echo in his mind. Live for what remains. He realizes that surrender is not resignation. It is the willingness to serve, even when life has taken what you love most. By giving what he still has, his hands, his heart, his presence, Elias discovers the quiet joy of being useful in a world that still moves. One evening by the riverbank, Elias watches children attempting to cross a small bridge. Their laughter is cautious, hesitant. He steps in, offering guidance, teaching them balance, and trust. One little girl trips and he catches her effortlessly, her wide eyes meeting his. In her trust, he senses a reflection of what he has lost and what he can still protect in the present. Surrender, he realizes, is not about losing everything. It is about finding what remains worth holding. Days pass. Elias becomes part of the village rhythm, mending nets, teaching, listening, laughing softly when he feels the weight lift just a little. At night he sits by the river, Theo's words echoing in his mind. It's not about control. It's about trust. He looks at the stars mirrored in the water and finally understands. Surrender is not defeat. It is the courage to embrace life as it is, with open hands and an open heart. On the 7th day, the village celebrates a harvest festival. Elias stands quietly at the edge of the crowd, watching families dance and sing under lanterns strung across the square. A child bumps into him, offering a flower. He takes it, smiling. Mira's memory drifts across his mind, not as sorrow, but as warmth. For the first time, he prays without asking, without pleading. He simply whispers gratitude for what remains, life, love, and the lessons that loss has taught him. The festival lights shimmer like tiny stars, reflecting his newfound peace. Elias returns to the coast, the familiar scent of salt and seaweed filling his lungs. The cliffs rise before him, the same ones where he prayed for peace and lost everything. He stands at the edge, satchel in hand, feeling the wind whip through his hair. Memories of Lucas surface, laughter, stubbornness, the last desperate glance from the small boat. Elias closes his eyes and breathes deeply, letting the wind carry both sorrow and gratitude. The sea is vast, unforgiving, yet beautiful, as if it had been waiting for him to understand its lesson. He walks down to the dock, where the Mara lies anchored, still weathered from the storm months ago. Elias runs his hands along the worn wood, feeling its history, both joyous and tragic. He climbs aboard, adjusting the ropes and sails as he once did with Luca at his side. The wind picks up, tugging at the sails. Elias grips the wheel firmly, chest steady. The waves roar higher than he remembers, yet he no longer fears them. He whispers to the sea, "I am ready." As the Mara sails into open water, memories swirl around Elias. The storm, the loss, the prayers unanswered. Yet, the grief now carries a rhythm, a pulse he can follow. He recalls Theo's words. It's about opening your hands to what you cannot hold. He closes his eyes, feeling the boat rock beneath him, the waves pushing and pulling, and he surrenders, not in despair, but in trust. Each crest and trough becomes a teacher, each gust a guide. He is not alone. He carries the love and lessons of those he has lost and those who remain. The storm comes again, sudden and fierce, black clouds rolling across the horizon. Waves tower, crashing over the deck, yet Elias does not panic. He steers, adjusts, listens. Every instinct is alive, but the fear that once gripped him is gone. He whispers to the wind and rain, "I surrender, not to the storm, but to life itself." Each crashing wave becomes a teacher, and with each, he lets go of the remnants of his old pain. By embracing the storm, he learns the rhythm of peace, a dance between courage and letting go. By nightfall, the storm recedes. The sea is calm, the air clean and fragrant. Elias sits on the deck, legs dangling over the side, watching the water glow silver under moonlight. For the first time, he feels complete, not because the storm has ended, but because he has learned to navigate it. He whispers to the quiet waves, "I no longer pray for calm waters, only for the strength to sail." Somewhere far beneath the surface, the memory of Lucas seems to smile, a silent blessing carried on the tide. The dawn breaks in soft gold over the cliffs where Elias first prayed. He stands at the edge, the Mara anchored below, calm waves lapping against the hull. The wind whispers secrets only he can hear. He closes his eyes and feels Luca's presence in every crest of the wave, every breath of the wind. For the first time, he doesn't pray for peace. He doesn't plead. He simply breathes, letting the universe move through him. Surrender has arrived, not as a loss, but as a quiet strength, steady as the tides. He walks along the cliff, picking up a smooth stone and holding it in his hand. Memories of grief flicker. The storm, the loss, the unbearable silence. But they no longer weigh him down. Each memory is a lesson etched into his soul. Be aware, he whispers softly. I surrender not because I am weak, but because I choose to live fully despite it. And for the first time, he feels the world open before him, vast, alive, and tender. He kneels beside the Mara, placing the stone on the deck. For Luca, he murmurs, his voice steady. A gentle wave laps against the hull, as if acknowledging the tribute. Elias runs his fingers over the worn wood, feeling both history and hope. The sea that once took everything now mirrors his surrender. A balance between letting go and embracing what remains. He smiles, faint but profound, understanding that peace is not a place or a prayer. It is the courage to open your hands to life, whatever it brings. Evening descends, painting the sky in amber and indigo. Elias sits on the cliff, legs dangling, watching the ocean shimmer. Mira's memory drifts softly through him, not as pain, but warmth. Theo's words echo. It's not about control. It's about trust. He smiles faintly, lips curving in quiet joy. Every loss, every sorrow. Every loss, every sorrow. Every unanswered prayer has led him here, to a surrender that feels like home. The wind carries his whisper into the vastness. Thank you for the strength to sail. Night falls. Stars scatter across the sky, mirrored in the gentle waves below. Elias lies back on the cliff, arms open, eyes wide, embracing the universe in silence. He has learned the real meaning of surrender. It is not giving up, but opening your hands to life, to love, loss, and everything in between. And somewhere, in the rhythm of waves and wind, he feels Luca's presence smiling, whispering, "Well done, Father."